Season 8 of Go Battle League has brought some massive sweeping changes to PvP in Pokemon Go, mostly buffing the snot, the absolute boogers out of poison-type Pokemon. But we also have big buffs to Pidgeot and Dragon Tail users as well. So just big buffs all around. Usually following an update like this, I make a winners and losers video, but there are just so many winners and just nothing is really lost. If you want to get meta about it, maybe fairy types lost a bit because poison is really good now, or it passively good now, you know? But there are so many winners that I decided to just do a top 10 list, the top 10 biggest winners from the Season 8 update here. And before we get into this, if you want to know about all the Pokemon, not just the 10 that I have featured in this video, there is a nice article on Game Press, the meta implications of the June 2021 Go Battle League moveset update, link in the description to that, where it talks about basically every single Pokemon that got influenced by this update there. Here, I'm focusing on what I consider to be the top 10, but if you got questions about any of the other ones, link in the description to that article. Starting out, number 10, we have Lugia, Dragon Tail Lugia. Now this is a Pokemon that people thought was going to lose from this rebalance because Dragon Tail had the okay damage and the okay energy gains, right? It was still a pretty poor move, but at least Lugia could make good use of it, right? Well, with the rebalance, it lost the energy gains and it got really, really big damage. So we thought the loss of energy would be a problem for Lugia, who likes to reach its charge attacks in the Master League. Well, what we're finding is that this has been a very subtle buff to Lugia because now Lugia has more aggressive fast move action. And you're going to find this with several other Pokemon I talk about in the top 10 list here, is that just that aggressive damage, allowing them to close out fights off of the fast move, especially in the Master League where you can end up in that uneven situation and you need any little bit of advantage to pull ahead. Yeah, that aggressive fast move, Dragon Tail action there is really going on for Lugia. Now I wouldn't say Lugia was buffed into high heaven with this, it's just that if you were using Lugia before and you were afraid that this was going to hurt Lugia, Lugia may actually be ever so slightly better now. Coming in at number 9, we have Ariados. And Ariados had 3 different layers of buff happen with this update here. Poison Sting is now basically like a Thunder Shock, Psycho Cut, Mudshot clone now. So really rapid energy gains, very little damage. It got Lunge, which, you know, freaking Galvantula, right? We all hate Galvantula, right? Yeah, this thing also has Lunge now. I guess the spider move, Lunge. And then Cross Poison. Cross Poison also got buffed to being a Night Slash clone, which isn't super impressive, not nearly as impressive as Poison Sting and Lunge are, but not bad, right? So what does this mean for Ariados? Is Ariados now a super big meta threat, much like Galvantula is? No, not exactly. Galvantula is still better than Ariados as a overall Great League threat. It's got, the neutral electric type attacks. It's got Volt Switch for good damage with the energy gains, discharge. So overall, Galvantula is a more threatening Pokemon. What Ariados does have, though, is bigger bulk and really good resistances. If you're a fighting type or a fairy type, a grass type Pokemon, maybe even a dark type Pokemon, you do not want to fight Ariados because Ariados has usually doubled up resistances against you. It's bulky to begin with, and it's able to throw Lunge at rapid speeds thanks to Poison Sting. So as a spice pick, if you're able to catch the right Pokemon with Ariados, or in a limited format where Ariados just happens to have even more good matchups, Ariados can be king. If you want to see Ariados in action, YouTuber Shrady actually has a video out on Ariados, so you can see Ariados in action. What I think is pretty interesting with that video too is that he does showcase its potential to kind of knowledge gap your opponents too, as he does take out some Altarias using Cross Poison when they thought they were hot to farm, but they weren't hot enough. They weren't hot enough. Cross Poison, too quick. So definitely recommend checking out that video. Then coming in at number 8, we have Drapion and Shadow Drapion in the Ultra League and Ultra League Premier Cup with that Poison Sting buff. Now, historically, Drapion has been a fast move spamming Pokemon using Bite and Ice Fang to get the one over on grass type Pokemon and Giratina in the Ultra League. For the most part, it's been kind of like a spicy Pokemon, and as the metas have developed over time, it's become more and more of a meme. It hasn't been that great. So with Poison Sting, it kind of flips its previous role on its head and now becomes a charge move spamming Pokemon. And Drapion has some pretty good charge moves to work with. It has Aqua Tail, it has Crunch, and it has Sludge Bomb. So good bait attack and then 2 good coverage moves with the same type attack bonus going on. So good on Drapion. Problem that Drapion has, though, is even though it does look really nice in the simulations, there are a good handful of wins where it really does need to have those Aqua Tail baits in order to be fast enough and hitting hard enough to beat its opponents. And playing with those sims, if I am going to straight Crunch, we are just like ever so slightly slow enough where we are missing those KOs. So that's not a really good look for Drapion. And then on top of that, Drapion does have the 2 move slot syndrome going on for it. It can't use Aqua Tail, Crunch, and Sludge Bomb. If you try to go Crunch Sludge Bomb, double nuke attack, it's just too slow for anything, and it's just bad. It's just straight up bad. If you don't use Crunch, then there's a lot of general matchups, like your overall win count definitely goes down because Crunch has really good neutral coverage compared to Sludge Bomb. So it's hard. It's hard being Drapion. And because of that, even though it is simming really well, I'm not exactly sure how well it's actually going to be in the Ultra League. And because it is a big XL Daddy, a high investment Pokemon, I don't know if it's really worth the investment there. It looks like it could be really good. It has a lot of potential now, but it might not be good enough. I guess we'll have to wait for somebody to take the plunge and try out Drapion in the Ultra League themselves before we get a really defined answer there. But as it stands, it does look like a pretty interesting spicy pick that could get the heavy one over on you if you're not ready for Drapion or you're not familiar with how Drapion plays in simulation. Because if you do have that perfect advantage going on with the Aqua Tail and the Crunch, then only like fighting types and Swampert really stand up against you in the Ultra League. When it comes to the Shadow versus the non-Shadow, I feel like the Shadow is ever so slightly better. Because of the Shadow bonus, you do have the potential to turn the Poison Sting damage from 2 to 3, which is a really massive gain. And then on top of that, you're spamming charge moves. Being able to hit harder with them to close out those fights, kind of important. So I feel like the Shadow is slightly better, which also adds to the big cost of the Drapion there. So I don't know, risky Pokemon. Might be overrating it here on this top 10 list. Coming in at number 7, we have Beedrill and Shadow Beedrill. And if you saw my Remix Cup video where I was whipping out the Wish Cash Double Poison line there, I said time and time again, Beedrill is that kind of Pokemon that's just on the cusp of the meta. It's almost there. And if it got a push with Poison Jab being improved, it could finally be meta. Unfortunately, the push that it needed to truly be meta was higher energy gains. What we got was higher damage. And the higher damage is nice, but it doesn't really make Beedrill anything like supremely greater than what it was before. It's better now, for sure. It made this top 10 list. It's better than Drapion in my mind, but still not quite a top meta threat. Big thing that Beedrill has going on for it, which I mostly used it for in the Remix Cup, was as a safe swap option that can bait in Bastiodon and then can get a shield and do massive damage to Bastiodon. You know, you use the Drill Run, it gets hit by it, doesn't take it out, and you usually are fast enough to reach that second Drill Run, so then they have to shield it, all before they reach their own charge move. So pretty threatening Pokemon there in Beedrill and can help you get ahead against Bastiodon teams, which were very common in the Remix Cup. In the open meta, you still have like Skarmory to deal with, but things are getting better against Altaria. In a desperate, dire situation, the Poison Jab damage being improved can allow you to potentially 2-2 the Altaria, which sounds insane. It is insane. Please don't keep Beedrill in on an Altaria lead because that's just madness. But having that extra damage clearly appears to be worth it. And we're also picking up wins against Umbreon and other Dark-type Pokemon as well. So definitely good having that advantage against some of the top neutral threats in the meta there. Oh yeah, and of course we're definitely whooping some charm behind. Actually, one thing I noticed with this that's pretty nice is if you do swap in Beedrill onto an Alolan Ninetales, you can now beat it before it reaches the Weather Ball. by throwing the drill run. Before, you didn't hit hard enough and it would be able to reach that weather ball and it would deal big damage to you. But now you could clip it from getting that weather ball if you swap in fast enough. So I think that's a pretty big improvement for that one particular charm matchup. In particular there. The other charm matchups, you already nuked them out of the water before, so don't worry about that. So which one's better, the Shadow Beedrill or the normal Beedrill? Personally, I'm a bit partial to the normal Beedrill. Being able to tank hits is kind of important for Beedrill, and as a safe swap Pokemon, it's not really like fast or like aggressive enough to really like warrant getting shields from your opponent compared to like the normal one. And then your ability to reach 2 drill runs is a lot higher against Bastiodon with the normal one. But the Shadow Beedrill does have that bigger, more aggressive damage that can help it in some situations. For example, the Shadow does have a more consistent Sableye matchup, which is pretty nice. I think overall, Beedrill's best idea though is to go for like the pseudo Shadow, if you will. So like a more like slightly attack weighted normal Beedrill. So it's like you're not quite the Shadow level of damage, but you are doing that little bit of extra damage. For comparison, let's say normal Beedrill's doing like 13 damage per hit, Shadow is doing like 16 damage per hit. If you attack weight it enough where you're doing 14 damage instead of 13 damage, that can make the difference in a lot of matchups. For example, doing something like that can make the Umbreon matchup more consistent. I believe you need a 130.87 attack stat to have that more consistent Umbreon matchup. However, I am noticing that having that higher attack weight too can give you some interesting like 1-2 shield situations as well against like Vigoroth and against the Abomasnow, as low as like a 127 weighted attack stat. So just having a little bit of extra attack weight on a normal Beedrill can go a long way now, hitting some nice break points, allowing it to perform like the old Shadow did, but with more bulk. So I think that's like the best case scenario for Beedrill. Slight attack weight. Then coming at number 6, we have another poison jabber, Skuntank. And for Skuntank here, the focus is definitely going to be on the Shadow Skuntank. Why is that? Why is like, Beedrill preference to the normal, Skuntank preference to the Shadow? Well, it really does come to where they put their bulk. Beedrill is more bulky in defense and less bulky in HP. Skuntank is more bulky in HP. So when you drop to the Shadow, you have your resistances still. So if your opponent's fast moves are still doing the same exact damage because of resistance, then you're not really losing a whole heck of a lot by going for the Shadow, and then you got that big HP to work with. So I feel like Beedrill has more to lose as being a Shadow compared to Skuntank. Skuntank has a bit more to gain by being the Shadow. Of course, there are situations where you can do the pseudo Shadow kind of idea with Skuntank there. I haven't looked into that too much, so if you are more interested in normal Skuntank, run some simulations there. So Skuntank, what's good about it? Why is it number 6? And Beedrill, my best buddy, is number 7. Well, Skuntank's a phenomenal safe swap in the general meta. Beedrill, kind of specific. You really want it to, focus on those Bastiodons. It's really hunting the Bastiodon. Skuntank here is just a good safe swap in general. You bring that thing in, and it threatens to take shields from your opponents. And if your opponents don't shield, well, then you could get swap advantage. It's just got that aggressive damage. The poison jab for the poison poke, generally unresisted unless you're up against a steel type Pokemon, and you got Crunch for the neutral hit, you got Flamethrower for a super effective hit. If you want to see this Skuntank in action, pre-buff, Wallower has a video using Skuntank as a safe swap, pre-Skuntank buff, and it's doing really well. Link in the description to that video. So you can only imagine that with the Poison Jab buff, Skuntank is just doing that much better. Now, I don't have PvPoke downloaded, so I can't compare current Shadow Skuntank to old Shadow Skuntank, but from what I can tell, it is having more consistent matchups against Vigoroth, other fighting type Pokemon. It's doing better against Altaria as well, and the Umbreon. So overall, it's just what it was before, but better. And it was already kind of like a spicy, semi-meta kind of pick before. I feel like this might push it into being more of a general meta kind of threat there. Then coming in at number 5, we have Groudon with the Dragon Tail. Dragon Tail Groudon. I mean, why would you ever want to replace Mudshot on a Mudshot user? I mean, aggressive fast move damage is nice, but usually you need to have a same type attack bonus to really make it worthwhile. So what's Groudon doing here? Well, Groudon is now no longer losing to flying type Pokemon as often in the Master League. Previously, Groudon with the Fire Punch, the Earthquake, maybe the Solar Beam and Fire Blast, I don't know if you want to do that or not. Generally, it had absolutely nothing to do against Flying-type Pokemon. Dragonite comes in, it farms you, makes you look like a chump. Evil Tail wrecks you. Both of the Landorus's, the Landorus, completely destroy you. It's just not good. Just not good against those Pokemon. Completely lost against them, and now you can flip those matchups by using Dragon Tail. Now, is Dragon Tail Groudon necessarily better than Mudshot Groudon? I think that's a little bit hard to say, because Mudshot does have that huge energy gains. You do have the Earthquake, and then you do have the Fire Punch for, spamming against like Togekiss, for example. Dragon Tail doesn't do so hot against Togekiss, so it is still a lot better. And you do have the one shield situation against Dialga, generally a consistent Dialga matchup overall with the Mudshot. So you would be giving that up for the most part if you went to the Dragon Tail side of the force. That said, Groudon would no longer get clowned by Flying-type Pokemon. And I think that's a really huge gain, because now your opponents do have to be a little bit more careful around Groudon. You could go with the Dragon Tail, swap that in, and they're like, my Dragonite has this. And then they don't have it. Coming in at number 4, we have Dragalge. Dragalge. When this thing came out, it was so hype because it's so cool looking, and it's a poison dragon Pokemon, so clearly it has to have all these crazy big brain plays because it's poison dragon. Like, what does it do? I don't know. It's got to do something cool with that. But its move pool, like its fast moves in particular, were shit. So it was shit. It was just bad. It was so cool looking, so hype, and just such garbage because of its fast moves. And then Niantic came from the heavens and said, we're buffing Dragon Tail. It's effectively a Dragon Breath clone now. Just a little bit slower, but it's got like similar stat gains. Dragon Tail's good. And then, just like that, Dragalge stopped being shit. It's actually good now. Now, when it comes to the Great League, I feel like it's not like general meta tier good. I mean, a lot of poison types got buff tier, so it's got that to compete with for one. But overall, I feel like in the Great League, things are a little bit too harsh towards it still. I'd say it's like a spice pick. You could whip it out. Your opponent might not be ready for it, and you can take them over. But right now, I feel like the meta also is very focused on the poison-type Pokemon, so it might be kind of rough going with Dragalge there in the Great League. Not bad. Spicy. In the Ultra League, in particular the Ultra League Premier Cup, this thing is good. Capital G, good Pokemon. With its set of resistances, if you're a Dragon type, a Electric type, a Water type, a Grass type, a Fighting type, a Dark type, I don't know if I repeated any of these types, basically a whole litany of Pokemon, like a whole, like I don't know, half of the Pokemon types don't want to fight Dragalge. There are so many Pokemon that just don't want to deal with this thing now that it's got Dragon Tail in the Ultra League Premier Cup. It's actually kind of neurotic. I love it. I want to build one. It is a big XL daddy, but there's a little discount coming in. An attack weighted, or like a more neutrally weighted, I don't know, like really goofy IV spreads, like a 15, 12, 14 kind of IV spread can be better. Actually, I'm going to say it is better on Dragalge in the Ultra League. Basically, instead of being like a level 50 maxed out XL Pokemon, we're looking at like the 43 to 44 range, so definitely a lot cheaper than going all the way. So that's right, for all you XL Big Daddy whales out there that already built your Dragalge for the Ultra League, your 115-15, well, you goofed up, you built too early, and now you're going to have to build twice, because an attack-weighted Dragalge looks like it's the way to go. With this attack weight, you're able to pick up breakpoints on like Kingdra and the Dragonites, Galvantula, Swampert, Venusaur. So some of those matchups you were already winning, now you can win them harder, maybe win at a shield disadvantage more comfortably. And then some of them you're able to flip now, such as Kingdra and some specific Dragonite spreads. One thing to keep in mind with this though, is you do want to have at least a 176 plus defense stat so the Dragonites don't get a like counter break point on you. So yeah, like the 15, 12, 14, you're still hitting that. Basically go into PV Poke and just punch in whatever IV spreads look like they might work out and find out if they work out or not. But at any rate, Dragalge, Ultra League Premier Cup, looking very meta, very powerful, big resistances against a ton of stuff. You definitely want to whip it out. Then rolling in at number 3 here, we have Golbat and Shadow Golbat. And I'm gonna say Golbat, especially early on in the early days of PvP, Golbat was basically like a meta Pokemon, maybe slightly on the spicy side. And as the meta developed, as we got more options and new moves and stuff like that, it kind of fell to the back because Poison Fang, while it could bait, it really didn't do a whole heck of a lot. So while Wing Attack and Shadow Ball is really good, its bait move or any secondary move option was just terrible. Well, now it's got Poison Fang, and Poison Fang is quite possibly one of the best charge attacks in the game. Just straight debuffing your opponent by 1 on their defense stat there. Easy bait move. You can beat tons of things, straight Poison Fang, and now Golbat has it. So with the Poison Fang buff, is Golbat meta now? Yeah, absolutely Golbat is meta. It's insane. It can beat Dark-type Pokemon such as Umbreon, straight Poison Fang. Straight Poison Fang. That's insane. And then on top of that, you're a flying poison Pokemon. So just like in my Remix Cup where I was being insane with the Wish Cash Double Poison, grass types, you still clap them like insanity. Fighting type Pokemon, what are they going to do to you? You're flying poison using Wing Attack, you got Shadow Ball to back you up, and Poison Fang to lower their defense stat. And then Deoxys Defense Form, one of the other main reasons to use Golbat was because you could clown that thing with a Shadow Ball. You can also beat it straight Poison Fang now too. That's just nuts. Other interesting thing to note is it could always overcome Skarmory. That was another selling point to Golbat. But it was also pretty decent against Altaria. You had a shot to beat Altaria with it, and now that shot's even greater. It's actually consistent now. I think you can point straight Poison Fang Altaria too. And that was another point of contention in my Remix Cup video where I was using the double poison team, was if I didn't get the Blizzard on Altaria, then I just have to swap to Golbat and pray things work out. Well, now I'm pretty confident that if I swap to Golbat in that kind of situation, it's going to work out. So yeah, Poison Fang buff, massive for Golbat. I don't know if I really presented Golbat to you in the best way here, but it's definitely phenomenal all around now. Really big, threatening pick. If you thought it was just kind of a joke before, think twice, because Golbat is good now. Now when it comes to Shadow Golbat versus normal Golbat, I'm in favor of the normal Golbat. There's a lot of charge attacks that normal Golbat can withstand that Shadow can't. Like a Psychic from a Medicham, a Psycho Boost undebuffed from a Deoxys Defense Form, a Weather Ball from an Abomasnow. You can tank those, not the most comfortable tanking it in the world, but you don't get one shot by them like the Shadow Golbat has a good potential to after fast move damage. So for those reasons, I feel like normal Golbat is a bit more reliable. That said, if you are able to be hot on the swap and catch, naughty charge moves that are aimed at your Golbat, then the Shadow one can pull ahead because then you don't have to worry about tanking those charge attacks, you're swap catching them. So there are trade-offs. There are trade-offs, but I feel like generally the normal is better, but both are definitely good. Then coming in at the number 2 slot, we have Feather Dance Pidgeot. And this thing's freaking broken, man. And I'm not just talking about how it could crash people's games, apparently. It's banned right now in GBL because I guess Feather Dance would cause games to crash half the time. Good job, Niantic. But aside from that, it's also broken. It's insane. Feather Dance is 45 energy for a 100% chance to lower your opponent's attack stat by 2 stages. 45 energy. For reference, Bubble Beam, 1 attack stat drop, is 40 energy. And then you got Octazooka. Octazooka is 50 energy for only a 50% chance to drop your opponent's attack stat. It doesn't even do it 100% of the time. But here's freaking Pidgeot, wings flapping, coming at you, 45 energy cost, 2-stage drop. How big is a 2-stage drop? Well, it basically takes a super effective hit and makes it neutral. Takes a neutral hit, makes it resisted. You get hit by that twice for a 4-stage drop, a super effective hit is now effectively resisted. And I don't even want to tell you what a normal or a previously resisted hit is doing then. It's doing McNothing piddle damage. And with this charge move equipped, Pidgeot is now just a top Omega meta threat in both the Great League and in the Ultra League. It's nuts. And you might be thinking like, well, it does have that Brave Bird, so maybe the PV Poke Sims are like perfectly baiting with the bait move and then landing the Brave Birds when it counts. That could be a factor. But we've done a lot of simulations going just straight Feather Dance. And it's basically getting the same amount of wins, just straight Feather Dance. There's like a few maybe like niche matchups that you need the Brave Bird for, but this insane level of dominance, it's all Feather Dance. To be perfectly for real, this move is so busted that I hope that before they reintroduce Pidgeot into the game, whenever they figure out why it was crashing games, they bring it back in. I really do hope that they increase the energy cost on Feather Dance by at least 5, or maybe increase it by 10 and then bump up the damage a little bit to make up for that, because for that 100% chance to drop the attack stat by 2 stages for a 45 energy cost, that's just too much. I feel like it's going to be like dichotomous, like it's going to separate the meta, like things that are fast enough to maybe hit Pidgeot with a charge move pre-debuff versus things that are just a little bit too slow for that. And then, of course, Pokemon that can heavily resist Pidgeot, such as like Galar Stunfisk and Bastiodon, and then those that don't. Those that straight up lose to Pidgeot, they're going to be on the losing end way more often than not. I think it's a little bit problematic. So I really hope that they do nerf this before bringing Pidgeot back into play here, because right now it's just looking a bit too good. Now, this doesn't mean that Pidgeot isn't manageable. You can swap out after it debuffs you, and then you got shields from it because it'd want to shield your charge moves before it debuffed you, and then you can throw charge moves at it with the next thing in. But the next thing that comes in now has the potential to get debuffed before Pidgeot swaps out. It has the potential to eat a Brave Bird before Pidgeot swaps out. So I think it's too much. I think Pidgeot is too much, and Pokemon Go needs to reevaluate how it's handling Feather Dance right now. Man, so that was like number 2. Like, what could number 1 be if Pidgeot is number 2? Because that thing like broke the game, and it's only number 2. Well, we made it this far. We've been into Season 8 this long. So you guys probably already know who the number 1 Pokemon is, the biggest winner of all the winners of the Season 8 rebalance. And that is Nidoqueen. Both regular and Shadow Nidoqueen are insane now in both the Great League and in the Ultra League. Now, when it comes to Nidoqueen versus Pidgeot, Nidoqueen isn't snapping the meta in half on its knee like Pidgeot is. It is overall a weaker overall Pokemon than what Pidgeot is. And I'd say Nidoqueen's addition into the meta is pretty in line with how the meta currently is. It fits in. It's not dominating. But at the same time, it's kind of dominating. It's really good. It's got the Poison Jab buff going on, so bigger, aggressive, fast move damage. And it's got Poison Fang. We just witnessed Poison Fang take Golbat to a whole new level, allowing it to fast move down a frickin' Umbreon. That's nuts. And now Nidoqueen has it with the newly buffed Poison Jab, thicker Pokemon with that as well, like nuts. And then for the steel type Pokemon that are going to come in to resist you, you have Earth Power. They don't want to get hit by Earth Power. They don't like Earth Power. So Nidoqueen, definitely really good. And then as an added perk, it generally has the advantage against Pidgeot. Because, you're debuffing my attack stat while I'm debuffing your defense stat. And I'm punching you in the face with my Poison Fang. So I feel like that's another, another little thing that works out good for Nidoqueen. And keeps her Dominion at the number 1 slot here in this top 10 list. So a lot of people ask, which one's better, the Shadow Nidoqueen or the regular Nidoqueen? And I feel like this argument is kind of like the same as the Shadow Hypno versus regular Hypno argument. They're very, very similar, and sometimes that extra bulk can allow you to pull ahead in certain matchups, and sometimes that extra damage can help you pull ahead in certain matchups. So it is pretty narrow, but at the end of the day, more often than not, in more situations, the Shadow is kind of edging it out ever so slightly because we do have that aggressive fast move damage. We're not really too concerned about surviving for a long time. We're just here to hurt things really bad and get moving on with the match. That said, a bad IV spread on a Shadow Nidoqueen is definitely going to be far worse than a good IV spread on a normal Nidoqueen. So fight them rockets, keep your eyes peeled for the low attack stat, high defense, high HP on the Shadow Nidorenas, Nidorans, females that you get there. for the one day that you may be able to build a Shadow Nidoqueen. But if you got like just kind of okay IVs on a Shadow Nidorina or whatever, a potential Nidoqueen, I'd say wait for a better one. Don't jump into the hype super hard here. It's not like game-breaking Pidgeot, like ghost types can't touch me and now nobody can touch me type nonsense. It's just really freaking good. And just as a reminder there, also has crazy mad good potential in the Ultra League as well. It's not just a Great League Pokemon, also really good in the Ultra League. So there you have it, guys, the top 10 biggest winners from the Season 8 GBL update. Once again, if you want to hear about all the different Pokemon, link in the description to the article on Game Press, which covers just about every single Pokemon that got a buff from this update. I don't think they mentioned Dragontail Arbok, though. I guess it's not worth mentioning, but they don't cover that there. At any rate, if you got any questions on this content, comment below, let me know what's up, I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. 4. I gotta piss. Really bad.